So I'm actually not used to working with two cameras at once, but Anna, you invited it when you wanted a back view as well. So now I put, there it is, my green pen. And so I was going to speak to what Culture for Care is and how somatic embodiment education, C, is embedded in C4C. And this is a platform for all the mud rooms. And what I call a mud room is systems and processes that all work with supporting us in being able to hold explosive behavior into something that truly inspires the soul to grow. And here I am, I'm doing one of those chaos things again. You never know where it's gonna go. Because I feel like it's an egg. You know, in this egg of circle, because we're creating a DNA in the circle that understands how to work with the charges, debug the system. You know, so inside of each of us, there are these defenses that pop up, and then there's these ways that we think we should go. But when we create safe space for reflective behavior, then our schmooze, as my beloved likes to say, the schmooze inside, the monsters, those parts of ourselves that are hurting, they get to root down into the DNA of our social conversation where the explosive behavior is. Because yes, there is explosive behavior happening, and we're all connected to it in this circle of life on planet Earth. So how do we work with the supercharged energies that live in the primal access points? And this is where the shaman conversation comes in and creates the deeper spaces for that journey point to really integrate in. And there's so much inside of that inner space. And so that's like the deep zone that C, somatic embodiment education, comes out of. So in the deep shamanic zone of the playful face that represents something that is beyond description. And so, but this is my description of it right now. And my recognition that the way that we work with these deeper zones and learn how to, as a culture, integrate the charges into a safe space that's digestible, and so that we create a safe space that is digestible for our human interactions in these circle systems. And as we create a space that really allows us an inner reality of connection, then we can once again start to connect all our dots up. So World Work is one organization that's been working. World Work, I would put up here. World Work and Process Work. So he has a whole foundation that trains people, and I've been aware of this for probably 30 years, so it's probably 30 plus years old. And process work and somatic embodiment education is my meta perspective. C includes all possible healing modalities, because it's an educational process that integrates models like 5 rhythms and continuum and breath work. And then there's, of course, Challenge Day, which is in the high schools. And there's so many different kinds of circles that are all crossing over in this landscape of social change that recognizes the poisons that live in the system. poisons that live in the system. Yes, the poisons that live in the system. But notice, like, oh my gosh, like the more clean we are, the better our plumbing is. The more our plumbing is actually working and hooking up, and we're taking those intense charges and learning how to ground them into the earth and make new animals for our social evolution out of this co-created play. Yeah. Oh, yes. So to me, it's like these frequencies of consciousness coming out and in. And this happens through the healing. This happens through the healing. When you go deep in, you come out with information that is connected. And in the connectivity, it can ground the supercharge. It can ground the supercharge. So, this is where I come from. And I'm, very aware that this is how it unpacked today. And I will try to unpack it in another way to continue to try and support C and culture for care and the DNA process of how to cultivate healthy, safe containers out of all of us. Yes, healthy, safe containers out of all of us from the inside out. That's the planting of the DNA. So that we can learn to deal with post-traumatic stress and all the ways in which survival is being activated, and all of the different models. Those are each, communities of people who understand how to work with and support living examples, when we all become the living examples for each other of how to populate this land with strong, healthy, alive, and vibrant human beings that know what's at cost, and that our lineage in this life, the layer of consciousness that we are on planet Earth, and there's a question mark of where we will land in history, in our geological time frame, in how we co-create this existence. So I think I turned it off accidentally, but you're still playing. So now I'm taking this off, and I totally forget that it's a double cord. Oh my god, how neat. So, I love this thing. I love my doodles. I do. I love my doodles. So, I really do think that creating safe space for people to be able to work with their deeper primal energetics that connect them to their own trauma, and creating safety around this. And that's where this really, really deep work comes, because when you're in the really deep field and you know how to navigate here, it helps that navigation of understanding and permission to be in that field of truly accessing. So this to me takes me to what came before C. And it's interesting, I hadn't really tracked the lineage until just now. So the lineage is somatic embodiment education came after the art of process. And when I was developing and defining the art of process, C popped out as somatic embodiment education to put my book into. And that, of course, is like the larger arc of where I have culture for care, which then I'm just one umbrella amongst many colors of highly sophisticated models and teachers to share. And that to me is where people go, we're the mudroom. We are the mudroom, those of us who hold those models. And there's the movement model, and I named Gabrielle Roth and 5 Rhythms. And then in Continuum, my teacher, her name was Beth Pettengill, or I should say is Beth Pettengill. And her teacher, so that there's a lineage of teachers. And each of these tables has a community of healers attached to it. And that creates this whole pool of human beings. And for me, somatic embodiment education is just acknowledging the vast amount of educational models that have erupted, and when did they start to come into fruition. You know, the world of psychedelia and our consciousness popping, and from that, I believe, really deep cultural access to parts of ourselves. You know, there was a lot of trauma that came up and out, and then there's a huge desire to create, you know, outreach programs and space for people to heal. So, you know, like world work I went to when I was about, was I 25 or 26? And I went to, and there was about 250 of us. We were in the Hispanic part of town, and there was a mishmash of color, and in this situation, you know, I recognized how white was not represented as much as the shadows of beauty in our radiant coloring, you know, because I just like, I get annoyed with the black-white. I'm just like, so I just tracked myself into an acknowledgement of right now I'm looking at a gorilla, and I see the marbly rainbow that we come from. Just the marbly rainbow. So back to this moment, they're all connected in this shamanic journey of journeying what it means to be alive. And this world work, see, consciousness, this is like its own research project and onboarding, which could, you know, be its own pillar on the matrix of this DNA structure of this thriving expression of a new social capacity to track what is deeply true, to translate that deeply true into proactive groups that thrive. And so this DNA structure over here is aimed to support the judgment bug in not taking over, but allowing those judgments to go into the open space. And then from the open space, if it doesn't clear, it goes into another circle. And in that other circle, there's a real intention for the health and well-being. Well, it's the mudroom, folks. This is like entry into the mudroom. And you don't really know where you're going to go or how it's going to look. You don't. Because there's options once you get in here, into the mudroom. And those options are part of what I'm looking at and working out, is what are those options? And that's part of the education of the circle, is to understand the need to cultivate what these options are and have agreement in the circle, so that when you go into the mudroom, you know that there's something in here that you've already agreed to, which is actually supporting this conversation of debugging in creating the nutrients for the whole. And that's where the role modeling comes in, is that, you know, learning to dive in and do this work and take this work back into the nucleus of this work, and making it fun and easy, because behind the charge, there is such humanity and love and goodness. And to depersonalize the charge so that we can put it back into, it's almost like that's our carbon. We have to take our own charge out of our collective sphere and create safe containers to move it out, so that our animal, as we're evolving, into this next stage, our living example. What is our living example? How is that, Anna? Was that too much? Mwah! Yes, so one went off, and so that, oh my God, I have no idea where I'm going sometimes when I do my doodle, but I really like that one too. I do, I like my doodles, it's true. Thank you, Anna, for inspiring me.